What's up, family? Dhane Diesil here. Thank you for tuning in to Billionaire Belief, and I have another reaction video for you today. The title is Stop Chasing Money, Chase Wealth, How to Get Rich. It was suggested to me through the YouTube algorithm, so we'll go ahead and find out what it's all about. It's a video by, the channel name is Garry Tan, so shouts out to him. You'll be able to check out the full video in the description. The goal obviously is to keep it beneath 20 minutes. And if that means if that means the whole video, then it means the whole video. If not, then you'll be able to check out the full video in the link in the description. As always, like, comment, subscribe, and let's go ahead and dive into this video.
You know that moment in Aladdin when he first meets the genie? Genie meets Aladdin, and he's surprised. Aladdin is not the usual kind of guy who gets a hold of this lamp. You know, this clip.
He pretty much knows what he wants, and it generally has to do with Do me a favor, do not drink from that cup. I promise you there's not enough money and power on earth for you to be satisfied. Good? So, what's your first wish?
I know a lot of you say you want to be rich, but what you really want is wealth. Wealth isn't this, or even this.
Okay.
There's a lot more to it. Here's why you need to get wealthy instead of rich, and here's how to actually do it. And if you want to learn more about topics like this and how to build your next big thing, be sure to click subscribe and the bell icon. It's what we do here every single week. Now let's talk about how to actually get rich.
Let's talk about it. OG app, that's an Apple commercial. How to get rich, not really.
First, what is wealth? Let's get this straight. Everyone talks about wanting money, but that's not all there is to it. Paul Graham says if you're in the middle of Antarctica where there's nothing to buy, it wouldn't matter how much money you had. Wealth is what you want, not money. But if wealth is the important thing, why does everyone talk about making money? It's kind of a shorthand. Money is a way of moving wealth, and in practice, they are usually interchangeable, but they are not the same thing. And unless you plan on getting rich by counterfeiting, talking about making money can make it harder to understand how to make money. Here's the philosopher Alan Watts in the early 1970s. He was talking with some politicians who were absolutely convinced money is real.
Finally, I said, the trouble with you gentlemen is you still think money is real. And they looked at me and sort of said, oh, someone who doesn't think money is real, because everybody knows money is money and it's very important. But it just isn't real at all, because it has the same relationship to real wealth, that is to say to actual goods and services, that words have to meaning, that words have to the physical world. And as words are not the physical world, money is not wealth. It only is an accounting of available energy, economic energy.
So again, money is not wealth. It's just really a big integer in a row-locked SQL database someplace owned by a bank, sitting in a server farm somewhere in the world. As Paul Graham says, don't get hung up by the money. It only represents wealth. If you're focused on the money, you're going to get stuck as a cog in the machine. You'll end up focused on that next promotion or the trappings of upward mobility. What is far more valuable is to create and own that engine, not just be a small piece in it. Now that the money myth is dispelled, let's get into...
So we'll go ahead and pause it real quick. You know, what I gleaned from that mostly was understanding that, you know, wealth is what you want, not necessarily money, which is an accounting of the economic energy required to get what you want. Let's look at it that way. So good points though, definitely a different perspective, but that's important, you know what I'm saying? We want to learn different perspectives to be able to think things through and have a different perspective and be able to think things through, think differently. Apple. All right, let's get back to it.
How to create wealth. The answer is skills, and people get hung up here and try hard to look like they have skills instead of actually having it.
Always talk about
PG goes on to
man.
say, the people most likely to grasp that wealth can be created are the ones who are good at making things. the craftspeople who can create it. Being an engineer, designer, or product person is the easiest way to be a craftsperson in modern society. These are the next generation construction workers of our era and just frankly the future. These are the roles that are the closest to the actual creation of the product. When I first started working, I was really excited to get a job. I remember when I was growing up, our family didn't have a lot of money, and at times I know my parents were really worried about putting food on the table and barely making rent. Sometimes dinner was just a slice of bread dipped in milk. That was it. So
I didn't dip mine
at
in
14,
milk, but I remember
I actually started cold calling because I wanted to help my parents and our family. I cold called the yellow pages in the internet section. This is me in 1995. I got my first job at the age of 14. It set me on the path that I'm on now. Design, coding, and product management, marketing, branding. I learned to build my craft. That's a really big thing that you and I have to talk about. Not all skills are valued at the same price. Dennis Rodman started his first job as a janitor at an airport at the age of 18. Now, janitors are really important and needed, but there are a lot of people who can do that job. So while there's plenty of demand, there's also a lot of supply because it doesn't require specialized skills to do it. Rodman was lucky. He had a huge growth spurt and gave basketball a chance in college. And in return, basketball gave him a chance. He ended up being drafted 27th overall in the NBA draft by the Detroit Pistons. And he ended up becoming a Hall of Fame basketball player. How? Rodman developed a skill nobody else had, rebounding at an extreme level.
I said, shoot the ball. I just shoot over here, shoot over here, shoot over there, shoot over there. I just sit there and react. I just practice a lot about the angle of the ball and the trajectory of it. You got a Larry Bird, it's gonna spin. You got a Magic, and make it spin. When Michael shoot over here, I position myself right there. Now I hit the rim, it's boom, click and go back this way, boom, here, click and go that way.
Just mastered the skill of rebounding.
Click here and go like this way. So basically I just started learning how to put myself in a position to get the ball.
He did something nobody else did, or even knew that they should do. And that won his teams 5 NBA championships, 5 rings. He made himself extremely valuable. Remember, not all skills are valued at the same price. If you can do things nobody else can do, you'll have skills that are literally priceless. And to be frank, this is one of the more brutal facts of capitalism. Venkatesh Rao says that you can either live above the API or below the API. API stands for Application Protocol Interface. It's how programs talk to each other. And now it's programs that are governing all aspects of how humans transact business and operate with one another. As a driver for Uber, you end up having to follow the directions of the app, which means you have to work below the API. It's useful to society, but because there are a lot of other people who can drive too, you aren't using special skills. If you create Uber and own it, you're above the API, and you get to build and maintain the systems that give people what they want. So what is most useful is actually acquiring skills that nobody else has, especially in combinations that are rare. If you can rebound the ball and nobody else does it quite the way you can be a Hall of Fame basketball player. And that applies to all the things in your career and in life. I get approached by a lot of people who want to raise money for their startup. But you have to know, investors are looking for founders who actually have the skills necessary to build that dream. Why? It's really straightforward. If I give money to a founder who doesn't have the skills, they're gonna lose against the people who have the real skills. So that's why it's so important for people to work on those skills before they raise money, before they start on their startup. And this is also why good investors look at the skills of the founders and the teams they fund, not just the credentials. I hate to say it, but there are definitely people who graduated from Stanford who are not good engineers, sorry to say. And investors get tricked like that all the time. They lose money when they only look at the credentials and the resume, when they can't tell if someone is actually good. All of these things point to the same place. The best way to look like a good startup is to actually be a good startup. It's actually better to be able to build and have the skills of a craftsperson and a manager than to look like one. The next big principle.
Pause right there. But once again, skills. We've talked about it before, but in your wealth building journey and my wealth building journey, the goal is just to acquire high income skills. At the end of the day, high income skills. So always be acquiring skills. God damn it. But like you said, another good point, above or below the API. So like you said, our lives are, being ran and conducted by technology, as the years go on. So these programs got to be able to talk to each other. And like you said, the API, like that's pretty much how all these programs and applications are going to talk to each other. So like the example Uber, you're either working below it, as in you're a driver. So that's where a lot of supply is. So that's not as high, being a driver per se isn't as high value of a skill compared to being above the API, the people who create the app, the people who work on the app. So obviously the founders, but once again, what are the skills needed to be the founder of an application like Uber? You need to have obviously software engineering skills. So being able to work on front end, back end, both, as well as obviously other soft skills, which we talked about in previous videos. So you got things like your, like I said, sales skills, et cetera, persuasion, silence, all that kind of stuff. So all in all, like I said, skill building is very important. That's going to be the difference maker. Over the years, that's pretty much what I've learned. That's what I've come to the realization of. And if I could do it all over again, I still would go to college, but my focus would be on developing, high income skills, some high income skill. And at the time, ironically, when I was in college, I was learning things like coding, photography, video editing, a lot of media skills for the most part. But at the time, I didn't have this knowledge. So I didn't really focus in on developing my craft the way I could have. So life's full circle at times. So bringing it on back around now, moving forward, my high income skills or the skill, I'm getting back into obviously the media skills. So, obviously being able to edit video, like how else am I putting these videos out? But, learning different stock option skills, trading skills, as well as, like you said, coding. So for me, I'm doing iOS development, software development. So working on being above the API. And, you got to figure out what it's going to be for you. There's tons of things you can do, but you got to figure out one, all right, and get started. So let's finish out this video, see what we learn.
Is that you have to transcend your constraints as a limited human being. Most importantly, this means getting leverage on your time. Apple Computer started almost by accident. Here's Steve Jobs talking about how Apple started.
And there was no personal computer in 1975. It's
Right.
hard, it's very hard to believe.
Well, that's why we made one.
Yeah.
We made one because we wanted one, and there wasn't one, so we had to make one.
Did you know that when you made the personal computer, though, that this would become a major industry? I mean, did you know like this?
No. It took about a year before we started to sense it. I had a partner named Steve Wozniak,
Right.
who's a brilliant guy, and he did most of the engineering on the original Apple I and the Apple II. And after about a year, we showed it to we just made it for ourselves, and we showed it to our friends, and they all wanted one. And so we were busy making these computers by hand for our friends, and it was taking all of our life. All of our spare time. And so we decided we better manufacture 100 of these to get, so that we can not have to spend the rest of our lives making them for our friends. And that's how we got into this. We didn't think about starting a company. We were just doing it for ourselves, and then our friends, and then the circle got bigger and bigger and bigger. Now there's 25 million people.
They were making computers for their friends. And then it took more and more.
All right, so we'll pause right there because he actually, once again, touches on a very important point in that obviously, being a producer, creating value, but most importantly, having something that you like to do or something that you want. So wealth, what do you want? Like I said, they wanted the computer and they built it themselves. And then after building it themselves, they showed it to a couple of friends. Now the friends want the computer. So going back to what we talked about, circle of CEOs, just giving value, you know what I'm saying? Having something, putting some time and effort into creating something. And then boom, you know what I'm saying, honing that skill, and eventually that'll be your wealth. So the wealth. So what do you want? You know what I'm saying? You have to get real clear on what it is you want. What do you want to create? that's going to help make your life, more efficient and effective, and that possibly can help others' lives become more efficient and effective. So, good video so far. Get some good gems. Adding some gems to the chain, some nice
Time
jewelry.
to create them. So they
look.
look to create a company to save time. Which brings me to this point. Naval Ravikant says, wealth is about positive sum games. And that's about getting out of the sort of finite games like selling your time. When I got my first job, cold calling the Yellow Pages, I was happy getting paid $7 per hour, then $10, then $20 an hour to write code. But what I wish...
Pause right there. Actually, another good point, you know what I'm saying? Eventually, you're gonna have to have a skill, obviously, but eventually, you want to your time, and that's pretty much this point, time. You're gonna have to be able to leverage your time to be able to be more productive, while also being able to free yourself up. So obviously that's gonna come with time, but you always be thinking ahead and understand, like he says too. You want to get out of positive zero-sum games, in that, like you said, trading time for money is finite, in that there's only so many hours that you can trade for dollars. Going back to Rich Dad Poor Dad, but once, like you said, they created the company to create more time for themselves. So they still wanted they wanted the computer. They created the computer. Then their friends, other people wanted the computer. Like you said, first it was friends. Now 25 million people have the computer. But it took creating the company to have that leverage to be able to manufacture these things, so that when people wanted them, they can have them. But it didn't require that they had to, like you said, spend the rest of their life building computers. So company, leverage, time, belt. So wealth, man, this is actually a good video. You know what I'm saying? Good game. Shouts out Garry Tan.
Finite number of hours in the day and in my life. You can get to 60 or 70 hours per week of work, but beyond that, you run out. But if you make a product that can make money for you while you sleep, that's leverage. I remember in my Microsoft days, I got into a cycle where my employer, Microsoft, was buying my time.
Yes.
And working there was tiring. It didn't feel fulfilling the way I wanted it to. But I got this money, and I'd turn around and I'd consume.
So we'll pause right there and probably end on that note, but I'm glad that he said that, and it's a great note to end on. And that, you know what I'm saying, in order to have that leverage at the end of the day, we have to create a product, sell that product, or we have to be able to find a product, to be able to acquire it at a low price, and have enough, big enough margin to where we can earn a nice, chunky and hefty profit on it. But obviously, if the game, like my boy Hassan says, the name of the game is wealth. I mean, not wealth, but equity in that regards. And that, so the more equity you can have up front, the more money you'll make on the back end, which will ultimately give you more wealth, i.e. time to do what you want. You know what I'm saying? Have the thing that you want. So like you said, the money itself, the paper dollars, that's just the accounting of our economic power, like you said. So it's a good point, man. And actually, excellent video. So we go ahead, like I said, end it on that point right there. And like I said, get your game up, man. Get your skills up. You know what I mean? Like, lessons for you and I, challenges for you and I. I'm in the same boat as you, though. You feel me? Like, I'm building just like you are. So, we continue to build. We continue to invest for keeps. And we continue to make it do what it do. All right. So, thank you for tuning in. That's going to be the conclusion of this video. It was an honor, and I'm grateful as always as you tuned in, gave me a little bit of your time. So on that note, go ahead and deuce it out. Dhane Diesil. Peace. Oh yeah, before I forget, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment on the video. It's going to take all of us to make any one of us successful, and we begin with conversation and communication. So make sure you don't forget to tell a friend, to tell a stranger, to tell a friend about us. Peace.